There are moments in life when everything feels like it's falling apart, when the world grows quiet, and all you can hear is the voice of doubt whispering that you're not enough. I know that feeling, because I've lived it. But let me ask you something. What if, in the silence, you could hear a different voice? The voice of courage, the voice of hope, the voice that says, "Get up one more time." That voice is within you, always has been. Today, I want to talk to you not as someone who has never fallen, but as someone who has learned how to rise. This is not just a speech, it's a journey to discover how you can motivate yourself, even when the world gives you every reason not to. There is a strange beauty in pain, one that we often overlook because we are too busy running from it. We live in a world that constantly tells us to be happy, to smile, to stay positive. And while there is value in optimism, we must not forget the wisdom that pain brings. Pain is not your enemy, it is your greatest teacher, and if you want to truly motivate yourself, if you want to rise from the depths of discouragement, the first and most essential step is to accept your pain. Don't resist it. The truth is, life is not always kind, it tests us. Sometimes it breaks us. We go through losses, disappointments, failures, heartbreaks, and illnesses. And in those moments, the easiest thing to do is to hide from what hurts. To numb it, to distract ourselves, to pretend that we are fine when we are not. But the more we resist our pain, the stronger it becomes. It does not disappear simply because we choose to ignore it. It grows in silence. It waits patiently in the corners of our hearts, waiting to be seen, waiting to be heard, waiting to be understood. Accepting your pain doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean staying stuck. It means sitting with it long enough to learn what it's trying to teach you. It means having the courage to look within and say, "Yes, I am hurting, but this pain is part of my story." You see, pain is not a punishment. It is a signal that something within you is crying out for healing, for attention, for love. And when you stop resisting, when you stop fighting it, you allow yourself the freedom to heal. Only then does true motivation begin. So many of us want to feel inspired. We want energy, passion, purpose. But we cannot find those things while suppressing the very emotions that shape us. You cannot move forward if you are still at war with your past. You cannot love your future if you are ashamed of your scars. And you cannot motivate yourself from a place of denial. Healing begins with honesty. And honesty begins with acceptance. Think about the people who have touched your heart the most. Were they perfect? No. Were they free from suffering? Absolutely not. They were the ones who chose to rise above their pain, not by escaping it, but by embracing it. They were the ones who turned their heartbreak into hope, their wounds into wisdom, their darkness into light. That power lives in you too, but you cannot awaken it until you face what you've been running from. Acceptance is not weakness. It is strength in its most humble form. It is saying, "This is my truth. This is my experience, and I will not be ashamed of it." The moment you do that, you break the chains that hold you down. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start becoming the author of your story. And from that place, motivation begins to grow, not as a loud, dramatic moment, but as a quiet decision deep inside your soul. A decision to keep going even when it hurts. A decision to honor every part of your journey, even the parts you didn't choose. A decision to trust that your pain has not come to destroy you. It has come to awaken you. When you stop resisting your pain, you create space for transformation. You begin to understand that every tear, every crack, every ache is shaping you into someone stronger, more compassionate, more alive. Pain is not your enemy, it is a passage, and while walking through it may be the hardest thing you'll ever do, it is also the most liberating, because on the other side of acceptance lies not just motivation, but a version of you that is braver than you ever imagined. Scars are often seen as something to be hidden, marks of shame, signs of weakness, reminders of pain. But what if I told you that your scars are not there to diminish you, but to define your strength? Every scar, whether visible or invisible, carries a story of survival, a story of endurance, a story of resilience. The world may tell you to cover them, to forget them, to pretend they never existed. But I believe you must do the opposite. You must turn your scars into your strength. The truth is, no one escapes life without wounds. Some of us are wounded by betrayal, others by loss, rejection, or failure. These wounds leave behind scars, emotional, mental, physical. They stay with us, sometimes quietly, sometimes loudly, and yet, in trying to erase them, we often erase the very evidence that we have fought battles and survived. Your scars mean you've been through something and made it through. They are not weaknesses. They are proof that you refused to give up, even when everything inside you was breaking. Turning your scars into your strength begins with perspective. You must stop looking at what hurt you as the end of your story. It was only a chapter, maybe even the most painful one, but it wasn't the last. It didn't break you entirely. In fact, it built parts of you that couldn't have been formed any other way. Strength is not always about how loud you can roar. Sometimes strength is how softly you continue to breathe, how gently you continue to move forward with your heart still healing. Sometimes we think motivation comes from happy moments or external rewards. But the deepest kind of motivation comes from knowing you've been to the bottom and climbed your way back up. It's when you remember the nights you cried and still showed up the next morning. It's when you recall the times you wanted to quit but didn't. These scars carry your strength because they carry your truth. And when you begin to honor them, you begin to honor yourself. There is something incredibly powerful about embracing your scars instead of hiding them. When you accept them, you give yourself permission to grow. You give others permission to do the same. You say to the world, "This is who I am. I have fallen, but I have risen. I have hurt, but I have healed. I have been broken, but I am still whole." That kind of authenticity inspires not just others but you, because every time you tell your story with honesty and courage, you reinforce the truth that you are more powerful than your pain. People often try to avoid their past because they think it makes them less worthy, less capable. But the opposite is true. The more you own your past, the more it empowers you. You begin to see patterns, lessons, and strength you didn't recognize before. You begin to find meaning in your suffering, not because the pain was good, but because you used it for something good. That is how you turn scars into strength, not by denying what happened, but by using what happened as fuel to grow, to rise, and to lead with compassion. We live in a world that glorifies perfection, but it is in imperfection that true motivation lies. The ones who inspire us most are not the ones who have never suffered. They are the ones who have suffered deeply and still walk with open hearts. Their stories carry weight, their voices carry depth. And you have that same power. You don't need to pretend that nothing has hurt you. You don't need to wear a mask of perfection. You only need to let your scars speak, not with bitterness but with bravery. Because strength is not the absence of pain. Strength is the decision to carry it with dignity, to wear it like armor, and to use it as a reminder that you've survived things you once thought would break you forever. In a world that is constantly loud, constantly demanding, constantly pushing us in every direction, it becomes easy to lose ourselves in the noise. The noise of comparison, the noise of doubt, the noise of people's opinions, and the endless rush of expectations. It all starts to drown out the voice within us. But if you truly want to motivate yourself, if you want to find clarity and courage, you must make a conscious choice to surround yourself with light, not noise. Noise comes in many forms. It is not just the physical sound around you. It's the clutter in your mind, the distractions on your screen, the toxic words you allow into your heart. It's the unkind voices that tell you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. And when you're constantly surrounded by that kind of noise, it becomes nearly impossible to hear the quiet truth of who you are. The truth is not loud, it doesn't shout, it whispers. And that whisper can only be heard in stillness, in spaces filled with light. Light that nurtures, light that uplifts, light that reminds you of your worth. There's a reason why we feel more peaceful around people who are kind, calm, and genuine. Their presence feels like light. They don't demand attention, they radiate something deeper, something safe, something strong, and that's the kind of environment you need when you are trying to grow. You don't need more pressure. You don't need more judgment. You need people and places that pour warmth into your soul, that make you feel seen without needing to perform. Light doesn't compete with darkness, it simply shines. And when you start choosing what brings light into your life, the noise begins to fade. We often seek motivation in the outside world, forgetting that much of our discouragement comes from what we allow into our inner world. If you are constantly feeding your mind with negativity, you will eventually start believing it. If you are always around people who drain your energy, you will start to feel tired even before you begin. Motivation is not just about action, it's about atmosphere. It's about being in spaces that breathe life into your dreams instead of suffocating them. It's about being around voices that say, you can, when the world says you can't. Choosing light over noise is not always easy. Sometimes it means stepping away from things that are familiar. It means turning off the constant stream of opinions. It means walking away from conversations that leave you feeling small. It means creating boundaries not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You don't have to explain your need for peace. You just have to honor it. Because when your space is filled with light, whether through kind people, inspiring books, meaningful silence, or your own gentle thoughts, you begin to reconnect with the part of you that still believes. That part of you that still hopes, still dreams, still fights. And when you reconnect with that part of yourself, motivation becomes natural, it flows, it rises without force. It's not about hyping yourself up with unrealistic expectations. It's about creating an environment where your soul feels safe enough to grow. A flower doesn't bloom because someone shouts at it to bloom. It blooms when it's given light, water, and care. You are no different. You don't need to force yourself to feel strong every day. You just need to create the kind of space where your strength can return, quietly and steadily, even after the hardest days. So when you wake up feeling lost, when you find yourself overwhelmed by noise and chaos, take a step back. Ask yourself, is this noise helping me or harming me? Is this voice bringing light or casting shadows? And then choose, bravely and consistently, what brings you closer to peace, to clarity, to truth. Because real motivation doesn't scream, it shines, and the more you surround yourself with light, the more you'll begin to realize that the spark you're looking for has always been inside you, just waiting for the noise to fade. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a way of seeing. In a world that constantly tells you to want more, chase more, and be more, it becomes easy to overlook the blessings already present in your life. We are taught to equate success with accumulation, and in that endless pursuit, we forget to pause and appreciate the small, quiet gifts that surround us every day. If you want to motivate yourself, if you want to find lasting energy and inner peace, begin by being grateful for the little you have. There is a certain magic in simplicity, a warm cup of tea on a cold morning, a message from a friend when you least expect it, the sound of your own breath when you sit still. These moments might seem insignificant to others, but they are deeply sacred when you allow yourself to feel them fully. Gratitude turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. It opens your eyes to the richness of life that can't be measured in money, titles, or achievements. When you start counting the small blessings, you stop feeling so poor. You realize how much you already have and how little you truly need to feel whole. Often, we wait for the big breakthroughs, the big miracles, the big changes, thinking only then will we have a reason to be thankful. But gratitude doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It shows up in the present moment and says, even now, there is something good. That perspective alone can change the way you move through life. Instead of seeing obstacles as punishments, you begin to see them as opportunities for growth. Instead of seeing lack, you begin to notice abundance, and that shift creates a deep internal motivation, a kind that does not depend on outcomes, but on awareness. When you are grateful, you stop comparing your journey to someone else's. You begin to see your own life through a lens of enough. The pressure to perform, to prove, to constantly achieve begins to loosen its grip. You are no longer running to catch up. You are walking in alignment with what already is. And that brings a kind of peace that fuels persistence. Because when your heart is at peace, your mind becomes clearer, your choices more intentional, and your actions more meaningful. You are no longer chasing happiness. You are living it, even in small, imperfect moments. Gratitude also humbles you. It reminds you that no matter how hard things are, there is still something to hold on to, a lesson, a smile, a flicker of hope. Even pain carries within it the gift of perspective. When you've seen dark days, you learn to celebrate light in its gentlest forms, and that awareness becomes a source of strength. You stop needing life to be perfect in order to feel inspired. You start finding motivation in simple things, like your own ability to breathe through hard days, to keep going despite uncertainty, to love even when you feel unloved. The power of gratitude is not in changing your circumstances, it is in changing the way you see them. And that change in perspective changes everything else. It affects how you speak, how you work, how you dream. It makes you more resilient, more kind, more focused. Because when you are grateful, you are no longer desperate. You are grounded. You begin to trust that life has not forgotten you, even when it feels silent. You begin to believe that every small gift is a reminder that you are still supported, still seen, still capable of rising. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about gratitude is that it multiplies. The more you notice the little you have, the more you begin to see. What once felt like lack begins to feel like fullness. What once felt like delay begins to feel like preparation. And what once felt like silence begins to feel like sacred stillness. Gratitude shifts you from survival to presence, from fear to faith, from exhaustion to quiet joy. And it is in that quiet joy that motivation begins to take root, not as something you must force, but as something that naturally grows when your heart is awake to the beauty already around you. Fear has a way of gripping us, often preventing us from pursuing our dreams, living with purpose, or taking the next step. It whispers that we're not good enough, that we're too small to make a difference, that the road ahead is too uncertain to travel. In a world filled with so many things to fear, it is easy to get consumed by doubt. But true motivation doesn't come from a place of fear. It comes from a place of purpose, a purpose so strong that it overpowers the fear that stands in its way. If you want to move forward, if you want to find the energy to keep going, you must let your purpose be bigger than your fear. Purpose is the fuel that keeps you moving when every other part of you wants to stop. It is the whisper in your heart that says, you are here for a reason. It is the deeper truth beneath the surface noise that tells you there is meaning in what you do. Fear will always try to tell you otherwise. It will try to convince you that the risks are too high, the obstacles too great, and the outcome too uncertain. But purpose doesn't care about fear. It only cares about what you were born to do. And when your purpose is bigger than your fear, you begin to make decisions not based on what's easy, but based on what's right. One of the most powerful things about purpose is that it doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require you to have all the answers, all the resources, or all the time in the world. It simply requires your willingness to step forward, even when you don't know what's on the other side. It is the courage to take the first step, knowing that even though fear is still there, your purpose will carry you through. It is the quiet trust that, as long as you are moving in the direction of your purpose, the path will unfold in ways you could never imagine. Too often, we let fear hold us hostage, thinking it is a sign that we shouldn't act. We confuse fear with failure, but the truth is, fear is not the enemy. It's a signal. It's a signal that you are about to do something important, something that matters. Fear doesn't show up when you're playing small. It shows up when you're about to grow, when you're about to expand into new territory, when you're about to take a leap towards something greater. And if you listen to it carefully, fear can actually push you toward growth. It forces you to examine your intentions, to reflect on your commitment, and to dig deep into your heart to find the strength to keep moving. When you choose purpose over fear, you stop letting fear decide your future. You stop asking yourself, what's the worst that could happen, and instead ask, what's the best that could happen? You shift your mindset from a place of survival to a place of thriving. You stop shrinking back and start stepping forward. Your purpose gives you the permission to go after what you want, not because you're fearless, but because you know that your why is stronger than any obstacle standing in your way. The thing about fear is that it's never as strong as we think. It seems much larger when we face it alone, but once we begin to move toward it, it loses its power. With every step you take toward your purpose, you deflate fear's influence over you. The more you choose to follow your purpose, the less space there is for fear to occupy. And over time, you begin to realize that the only thing standing between you and what you truly want is not the world around you, but the fear inside you. It's not the circumstances that limit you, but your willingness to let fear control your choices. Purpose, on the other hand, empowers you. It gives you clarity when the road ahead feels blurry. It gives you strength when you feel weak. It allows you to keep going when every other voice inside you says to stop. And in those moments, when fear is loudest, your purpose will be the anchor that keeps you steady, reminding you why you're doing what you're doing. So when you feel the fear creeping in, remember that you don't have to let it stop you. You have something stronger inside you, something that has the power to drive you forward, even in the face of fear, and that strength is your purpose. When you begin to lift others, something incredible happens within yourself. It's as if your own energy is renewed, your own sense of purpose is reignited, and you start to see that you are not just a participant in your own life, but a part of something much bigger. The act of inspiring others doesn't just change them, it changes you. It fills you with motivation that transcends self, interest, and becomes a force for good, and this is the power of lifting others up. When you help others rise, you rise with them. It's easy to think that motivation is a solitary journey, that you must focus only on your own dreams, your own goals, your own struggles. But in reality, the most fulfilling and sustainable motivation comes when you make a conscious decision to contribute to the growth of others. There is something deeply rewarding about seeing someone else overcome their challenges, because you offered a word of encouragement, a helping hand, or simply your presence. When you invest in someone else's growth, you invest in your own. It becomes a cycle of mutual empowerment. Helping others may look different for each of us. It could be something as simple as offering a kind word when someone is down, sharing your knowledge and experiences to help others learn, or being there for someone in their hardest moments. These acts don't require grand gestures or complicated plans. They simply require a heart that is open, a spirit that is willing to give, and a mind that understands that true success isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who you help along the way. The beauty of lifting others up is that it's a form of self-motivation that goes beyond personal gain. You don't do it to receive anything in return. You do it because you understand that the more you pour into others, the more you will be filled yourself. The more you give, the more you grow. It's a paradox. The more you help someone else achieve their dreams, the more you will find your own path illuminated. There is a unique sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing you've played a role in someone's growth. It makes your own struggles feel less burdensome and your own dreams feel more meaningful. The act of lifting others creates a ripple effect. It doesn't just stop with the person you help. They in turn are more likely to pay it forward, to encourage someone else to make a difference in their own circle, and that in itself is a beautiful form of motivation. When you see the impact you've made in someone's life, you realize that your own journey isn't just about your personal success. It's about contributing to something larger than yourself. It's about creating a community of support, encouragement, and shared strength. When you motivate others, you begin to see the world differently. You see people not as obstacles or threats, but as partners in this shared journey of life. You see potential in them, just as you want others to see it in you. You learn that your success is not defined by how much you achieve alone, but by how many people you help rise to their fullest potential. You learn that motivation isn't about proving you're better than anyone else. It's about realizing that you are all in this together. And when life gets hard, when the road feels long, when obstacles seem insurmountable, the act of lifting others can give you the strength to keep going, because the more you see the effect of your kindness, the more you feel your own worth. You begin to see that your struggles have meaning. They're not just hurdles to overcome for your own sake. They're lessons to be shared, experiences to help others navigate their own challenges. When you lift others, you remind yourself that you're not alone in your pain, that your difficulties have purpose, and that your strength can make a difference in the lives of others. In the end, the greatest motivation comes from seeing someone else believe in themselves because of you. It's the moments when someone looks you in the eyes and says, "I did it because you showed me it was possible." Those are the moments that remind you that your journey is not just about reaching your destination. It's about making sure you lift others as you climb, and in doing so, you will find that the highest heights of motivation are not found in self-ambition, but in the shared success of lifting one another. As we close today, I want you to remember this. Motivation is not something that comes from external sources or fleeting moments of inspiration. True motivation comes from within. It is the quiet, steady force that rises from your purpose, your strength, and your willingness to keep going, even when the path ahead feels uncertain. It is not about waiting for the perfect moment or the ideal circumstances. Motivation is about choosing to take one more step, even when you don't feel like it. It's about recognizing that, no matter how tough life gets, you have within you the power to rise. You have scars that tell the story of your journey, of the battles you've fought, and the strength you've found in your most challenging moments. These scars are not marks of weakness, but of survival. They are the evidence of your resilience, and they are the foundation of your strength. Embrace them. Let them remind you that you've made it this far, and you have everything you need to keep going. You have light that you can surround yourself with, light that can fill your heart and your mind with hope, clarity, and peace. The noise of the world will always be loud, but your inner light can cut through the chaos. By choosing to surround yourself with the right influences, with people and things that bring out your best, you empower yourself to move forward with confidence. You have purpose that fuels your every action, that guides you through uncertainty and fear. Purpose is the reason you wake up every day, the driving force that keeps you going when everything else tells you to stop. And when you align yourself with your purpose, fear loses its grip on you. Purpose doesn't erase fear, but it makes fear smaller in the presence of something far greater. You have gratitude for the little things, the small blessings that often go unnoticed, but hold the key to a life of fulfillment and peace. Gratitude shifts your perspective and reminds you that even on your hardest days, there is always something to be thankful for. It is in this space of gratitude that your motivation will flourish. And finally, you have the power to lift others, because the greatest motivation comes not from what you achieve, but from how you help others rise. The more you contribute to others' growth, the more you find your own. When you lift others up, you too are lifted. You become a part of something bigger, a ripple of positive change that extends far beyond you. So, as you step into the world today, know that you have everything inside you to live a motivated, purpose-driven life. You are stronger than you think. You are capable of more than you imagine. Keep rising, keep moving, and keep lifting others as you climb. The world needs your light, your strength, and your motivation. It's time to let it shine.